So, last Sunday, NBC threw Lorne Michaels and Saturday Night Live a star-studded 40th anniversary bash, attended by an A-list of former ensemble members, hosts, and musical guests. The party's over, but I would like to make a belated toast to some of the TV pioneers who paved the way for SNL. Each of these is represented on DVD, and they are essential viewing for any self-respecting comedy geek. We begin with Sid Caesar, Your Show of Shows.
Yeah, dear. Here's your birthday present.
Charles, get up. Get up, get up, get up.
What? What is it? What?
I don't want it.
What do you mean you don't want it? I don't understand you. What is it? You come in the door, you know, I always give you a present, and then I always take a nap before dinner, and I don't know, I just don't feel at home today.
You idiot. You idiot. You thoughtless, inconsiderate fool.
Now I feel at home. Good.
Sid Caesar was the original Mr. Saturday Night. Your Show of Shows premiered in 1950, and that was television's gold standard comedy series, the show to which comedy writers of that era aspired to, kind of like The Simpsons in its heyday. Caesar presided over a seamless ensemble of performers, including Imogene Coca, Carl Reiner, and Howard Morris. His dream team of writers included, though not all at the same time, Neil Simon, Mel Brooks, Larry Gelbart, and briefly, Woody Allen. Along with the character-based sketches, they also keenly satirized popular culture, including foreign films, which in the early 1950s were a new phenomenon on our shores. And as hard as the SNL team works each season, they are slackers compared to the show's crew, who worked without cue cards, at Caesar's insistence, and created a staggering 39 weeks out of the year. Last season, SNL managed 21.
Sometimes they don't sweep up so good after the Untouchables.
Next, Ernie Kovacs. When Chevy Chase accepted his Emmy Award for Saturday Night Live, he graciously acknowledged Kovacs, a comic genius who was satirizing television while the medium was still in its infancy. The various incarnations of the Ernie Kovacs show were chock-a-block with blackouts, sketches, recurring characters like the gorilla costume Nairobi Trio, the poet Percy Dove Tonsils, and whimsical dalliances that pushed the technological envelope.
A short communication from a student who says, "We have been studying history. We are studying the stories of Mr. Americus Vespucci and Mr. Christopher Columbus and how they discovered the world was round. Would you please explain how they did discover it was round?" Actually, it's not round at all. People are dropping off all the time.
He once presented an illustrated rendition of Tchaikovsky's 1812 overture, synchronized to the movements of toy monkeys and other bizarre objects. Besides its influence on Saturday Night Live, David Letterman, in his more daring early years of The Late Show, was also a kindred spirit. Next, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. With its mix of old-school show business, counterculture comedy, and decidedly anti-Vietnam War stance, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour revolutionized the variety show format for a new generation.
Before we start, I'd like to mention to Tom that we have a marvelous opportunity tonight to present a public service message for the U.S. government.
Oh, boy, that's my favorite thing. I'm a big fan of the government, yeah.
Well, as you know...
Whoopee.
Well, as you know, Tommy...
No one expected clean-cut folk singers Tom and Dick Smothers to make waves. But at a time when TV's most popular programs offered pure escapism, head writer Mason Williams and a writing staff that included Steve Martin and Rob Reiner wanted to push the show in a more subversive direction, and Tommy, who only played dumb opposite his brother, sought and was granted, he thought, creative control from the network. The show attracted musical guests who ordinarily did not do television, such as the Buffalo Springfield, The Who, the blacklisted folk singer Pete Seeger. There was trippy drug humor, but the show ultimately rose and fell on its political satire and anti-war stance. Under pressure, CBS eventually pulled the plug. It was fun while it lasted. Finally, the music scene. Now, Dennis Hopper is credited with saying, if you can remember the 1960s, you weren't there. Well, even if you were there, you might be hard-pressed to remember this failed programming experiment that anticipated Saturday Night Live with its blend of contemporary music and sketch comedy. The music scene was compromised from the start. It had a 45-minute time slot. It was paired with another 45-minute series called The New People, and the time slot was opposite Gunsmoke. ABC got cold feet almost immediately after hiring the subversive comedy troupe The Committee to host. They were soon jettisoned in favor of comedian David Steinberg. Also joining the cast, a young comedian named Lily Tomlin, who would later bring comedic cred to the fledgling SNL. But it was the music that set Music Scene apart. It was an eclectic mix of hip bands like Sly and the Family Stone and Jimi Hendrix, and one-hit wonders like the Archies.
It's your thing, do what you want to do. Mom can't tell you. It's your thing, what you want to do. It's your thing, do what you want to do. Mom can't tell you who you're talking to.
The Music Scene carried the torch, first lit by the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, but it was extinguished after only 4 months. 5 years later, Lorne Michaels would crack the code, and the rest is comedy history. You can read more about this on my entertainment blog. I'm Donald Liebenson, and you're not.